me and Adam talk about at least storylines all the time. And the Chicago Bears this week have a very strong one. And they had it already in the beginning of the year when they faced the Lions that if he were to lose that game, fire him. And now it's Thanksgiving. I did say earlier in the year, I think the Lions will get their first win on Thanksgiving, or at least later in the year. And now you have Matt Nagy, who's himself has indicated he hasn't heard anything from upper management about this decision. But that doesn't change the narrative. And now we got our guy Kory joining us. So I'm going to ask this guy a bunch of questions about it. But more importantly, I want to get your thoughts, Easy and Adam, before we go to Kory, on just quickly on this Matt Nagy narrative and why this game very well might be his last game if he loses.
I mean, you got to start with it's the winless Lions team. Like if you lose to
right
them,
there, baby.
Any coach that loses to them throughout this season is automatically on a warm seat. And I almost used to swear words, but I forgot on the radio now. But any coach that loses throughout this entire season is automatically on a warm seat. It's just the Lions are awful. I will say this though about Matt Nagy, and this may be a little bit of a hot take. I kind of don't get it as much. Look. He been in the playoffs how many times with Mitch Trubisky? Twice, right? Is Mitch Trubisky, was he a backup now? I mean, I think for Buffalo, right? He's not a good quarterback. 2018 AP Coach of the Year, like offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs. Before they had Patrick Mahomes, they were still doing pretty solid with Alex Smith.
Can I talk?
Smith is no slum, but go ahead.
Yeah, you got to go back and forth here, Adam. Let's go.
All
Let's
right. Easy, I love you, buddy. You know I love you, right, man? All right.
Yes.
I could get with you on this 1 year ago. I can't do it this year. I'll tell you why. 1 year ago, Matt Nagy was 20-12 as a head coach with one playoff appearance, 12-4 his first year, coach of the year. Offense looked great. His first year in Chicago, he made them a top 5 offense. It was unbelievable, top 10 offense. He was really good with Mitchell Trubisky. Second year, 8-8, they slump a little bit. The defense regresses. The schedule was much more difficult. Okay, I'm not going to panic. It's 8-8. The guy's proven he can win 12 games in the NFL. The following season, which was last year, they start 3-0. He makes a decision to bench Mitchell Trubisky, and I believe they finished the season 5-8. The remaining way, or 5. What was the record last year? 7-9. Or
it was
8-8.
8-8 net last year.
Yeah, so they finished the season 5-8. They had lost 5 straight throughout the season. They looked awful, and even this year, they're 3-7. They mortgaged the franchise to go up and get Justin Fields. He doesn't look all that great. And if you just go on the offense, which is what Matt Nagy is known for, he came into the league. They were a top 10 offense. Since, they're 29th, 22nd, and now 29th. Like, I don't know how, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, that you're supposed to put up with that at all. You know, for example, with Detroit Lions fans and Dan Campbell, you don't really have that problem. It's like, oh, he's not an offensive-minded coach, and he's not a defensive-minded coach. He's just a coach. How do we even deal with this? And you're going to have to judge Dan Campbell 2-3 years from now, 1 on win-loss record, and 2, development of the team. And if you apply that same logic to Matt Nagy, the team isn't getting better. The defense is missing Khalil Mack for the rest of the year. They're not going to get any better. They're probably going to end up with 5-6 wins at most. So they're going to have a top draft pick. Do you want to waste that with the current GM and the current head coach? I mean, I know there are reports that came out disputing, hey, we're not ready to move off Nagy, but look, man, whenever a report comes out that a dude lost the locker room, it's very difficult to come back from it. I've watched football for way too long. Whenever the report comes out like this guy's starting to lose the locker room or players aren't trusting him, you're only weeks away. You can only buy yourself so many weeks, and Jeff talked about it earlier. Narrative. What's the narrative behind this game? Well, if Matt Nagy loses to the winless Lions, that's pretty damn. That's a big indictment. You can't afford it. So, I've got my money on the Lions tomorrow, but you guys can give me your opinion on Matt Nagy.
Well, listen, now that we kind of got our general consensus on Matt Nagy, I want to drop it to our Detroit Lions beat reporter, Kory Woods. He's here, joined us in the studio. And Kory, this week, Thanksgiving, they take on the Bears. We talk about Matt Nagy. I need your thoughts on Matt Nagy, number one, on the possibility of being fired this Thursday, and just this year as a whole for the Chicago Bears.
Well, if he does get fired tomorrow, if he does get fired after tomorrow's game, that would be, unprecedented for the Chicago Bears, because the McCaskey family has they've owned the team for like over half a century. They've never fired a coach mid-season. So that would be bucking tradition. I think if they lose to the winless Lions, that could expedite that, because, to Adam's point, he came into the Bears and was 12-4 that first season, but over the last 3 seasons he's been 19-23.
Right.
Not good. So I see that if they lose to the Lions, I can see his seat getting a lot warmer. But I mean, if a team has not fired a coach over half a century during the middle of the season or during the season, I'm curious to see what would buck the tradition right now. Him and the general manager, Ryan Pack, they're both on thin ice. The McCaskey family said that when they brought them back, they wanted to see progress this season.
Yep.
Obviously, they have not had any progress. They've regressed. So I think it all depends on if they lose tomorrow, and if they do lose, how they lose to determine whether they go ahead and buck, their tradition, or I guess you could say a tradition, and fire a coach during the season.
And it's interesting because before the season in the draft, they traded up for Justin Fields. It almost seemed like to buy them time. And now his first year, he started. The Bears fans got what they wanted, and they've lost their last 5. So, and they lose the Lions, it'd be the 6 now. So, but that's interesting. I did not know that the Bears have never fired a coach midseason. So that would actually support the argument. He'll be here the rest of the season, but
he's going to get he's going to get fired.
That's for
sure. He's going to get fired.
It just
depends on when, not if.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, I do want to say is, like, from the Bears organization, the other thing came out with him was the locker room. And when the locker room's buzzing about it, it's got to be done. I just don't think that Ryan Pace I don't think his hands are clean in this at all. He was given the Mitch Trubisky project. He's the one that traded away, valuable assets and built the roster that, Matt Nagy's forced to work with.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I think Matt Nagy can still have some success after the Bears.
And Andy Dalton's for sure the starter.
Easy. I'm on the same page as you guys in regards to Ryan Pace isn't absolved from this. If you guys look at Ryan Pace's last 3 drafts, I could name maybe there's 2 starters right now on the team outside of Justin Fields, and that's David Montgomery and Darnell Mooney. The rest are below average players at best. They've gotten games, some corners that are maybe 3rd, 4th string corners, probably out of the league in the next year or 2. Ryan Pace hasn't helped Matt Nagy at all, but that's on the coach as well. Look, when you're a head coach in the NFL, you're having an open, honest communication just throughout the board when it comes to players. Like, hey, this is how I want to build my team. And you can't convince me that Matt Nagy doesn't have part in saying, hey, this is how I want my teams built. So I think they're both done at the end of the year. The Chicago Bears, and what is it, Kory? 101 years, they've never fired a coach mid-season. I don't expect them to do that this year. They're going to give Matt Nagy the rest of the year.
Yep.
Who knows? Nagy could go get another job. This isn't the Detroit Lions. This isn't where you go to the coach of the Detroit Lions and then you never get a head coaching job after. This is just completely different. So I like Matt Nagy. I think he's lost what made him special or very early on, that creativeness. And I'm seeing that same trend with Sean McVay. Sean McVay is extremely, extremely reliant on Matthew Stafford right now, which is not good. You shouldn't do that. What made Sean McVay so damn good and Jared Goff good very early on was deception, motion, play action. I mean, that is what made McVay special, and what made Nagy so special was the same concept: deception, motion, getting players open, creating one-on-one matchups that favored you. I mean, that is Matt Nagy. That is a lot of these young offensive-minded coaches, and of course, defensive coordinators pick up on it. But at the end of the day, Kory, I don't see them making a move before the end of the year, even if they lose, especially after that report came out. I think that kind of quells a lot of the hot seat. But look, if they lose tomorrow, if I'm a Chicago Bears fan, I'm ready to put my head through it.
I think for them to fire him after tomorrow's game, like I said, they would have to get blitzed. I'm talking about, like, the Lions can't just come out and lose, because both the teams, I mean, granted the Lions are 0-9-1 and the Bears are 3-7. Both teams are bad. They're both bad teams. I think it would take Chicago getting embarrassed on national TV against a winless Lions team for them to, like, you know what, both of y'all are out of here. Because look at last year. I mean, different scenarios, but Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn.
Yep.
If they would have just lost that game, I think Matt Patricia would have finished the season. They got embarrassed. They got slacked on national TV. And then he was gone 2 days later, both of them.
Can I ask this? The Lions are clearly having some offensive issues, some non-creativity. If Matt Nagy becomes available on the open market and the Lions are looking for an offensive coordinator next year.
Kory's shaking his head already.
Is he a candidate?
No, I honestly would say this. If the Lions decided to go ahead and go in a different direction with offensive coordinator, I'm going to steal a page from my guy John at Sports Illustrated. I think they should turn to the guy who's already there.
Deuce Staley.
Deuce Staley. Go ahead and promote him.
I've heard that a lot,
He's already
too.
been talked. He's already fielded a question about if he would like to take an offensive coordinator job in this league. He said he would if he gets it. So, I mean, if they decide to move on from Anthony
Kory,
Lynn.
I have a question for you, man.
Adam shut me down when
All right,
I mentioned that yesterday, by the way. Just want to add
Look,
that. I mentioned Duke Staley.
look, I think the NFL is a great place. I think a lot of people get opportunities to fill in and really show if they have potential. And who knows, Duke Staley may be that guy. But if you're Dan Campbell, are you really going to take a flyer? Are you really going to be like, all right, there's all these offensive coordinators available with experience calling plays and game planning. I'm going to go with the guy in staff, which again, it's fine. The Washington Redskins at the time passed on Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, and Sean McVay. So they're a prime example of what you can let walk out the door. But look, I really think even if Duke Staley takes over, I mean, is that the direction the Lions want to go? I mean, this seems like a bigger project than maybe people even thought. Like, I have zero confidence right now in the coaching staff. The way that Anthony Lynn has been treated, and believe me, I'm one of Anthony Lynn's biggest critics, especially when he was with the Chargers. I thought he really underperformed with that roster. Having said that, how do you make the call to change offensive coordinate or play calling duties mid-season, and then all you do is run the ball more? You can't walk into the meeting room and say, hey, this is our number, 35. I want to see us run the ball 35 times, Anthony. That's the game plan. We're going to run. We're going to pound the rock. You couldn't have done that. It took you to call the plays, and Dan Campbell's not any better than him. So, yeah, give Duke Staley a shot. I don't think that's the long-term solution. I don't think anybody on the staff is the long-term solution outside of Aaron Glenn. He's been the only one that's shown promise, Kory. So,
well, to that point about
Duke
Aaron
Staley
Glenn,
shot, I'm okay with it.
well, to the point about Aaron Glenn is the reason I will go ahead and go with Duke Staley. Aaron Glenn has the respect of the locker room. When you hear those defensive players like AJ Parker, Bobby Price, Amani Warrior, Will Harris, you go down the line. Those guys bring up Aaron Glenn and Aubrey Pleasant, for that matter, without even being asked about them. They bring up how much they've been an asset to them in coaching them. Same thing with the running backs. You hear a Jamal Williams, a DeAndre Swift. They bring up Duke Staley without being mentioned, without anybody asking about them. You don't hear anybody. You don't hear any receivers talking about Anthony Lynn. You don't hear Jared.
I think
So
you're onto something.
I just think I know long-term solution that it may or may not be ideal, but if they just want to turn to somebody that has the locker room, I think that Duke Staley would be a good fit, at least.
I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm more than okay with Duke Staley getting his fair shot. How many games are left? What are we, 9-1? So 7 games left. After Thanksgiving, you have about 10, 12 days. So, you know what? I'm okay with Duke Staley moving
auditioning
forward.
right now for the rest of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You should give him that chance, especially if he has the locker room. And look, Jason Garrett just got fired in New York. He's probably not getting another job, and nor should he. But, you can't just blame everything on the coordinators as well. I think it was a cop-out from Dan Campbell to immediately cut Anthony Lynn. At least, look, for all my criticism of Anthony Lynn all season, what was the Lions' biggest issue? Red zone conversions. They were moving the football downfield. They just couldn't convert in the red zone. Now the Lions just can't move the ball at all. So I don't see it. I hope they give Duke Staley a shot. Although I'm against it, I'm okay with an audition because the season is already over. It's been over. It was over before the season started. I think they really gave up on Anthony Lynn too quickly, although I'm not a big fan of his. Regardless, give Duke Staley a shot. I'm with you, Kory.
I mean, I just don't know. With the way this season is going, just try something. This is the time to go ahead and get everything out, because next season they're going to have to come back more polished and more composed with how they start the season, how they draft, how they pursue free agents. So right now, even though Dan Campbell has not shown to be that much of a better play caller than Anthony Lynn, I was cool with the decision of Dan going ahead and taking over. Try something, because nothing has worked.
Right.
I have a question, a little bit of a conspiracy, and I actually texted Kory about this last night. And some of our dilemmas on offense. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but Aubrey Pleasant, our defensive backs coach, is also the team's passing coordinator. Is that correct, Kory?
For the Rams, right?
Yeah,
For the Detroit Lions. I'm not lying. What the hell? What is that? I've never. Is that a common thing in the
What
NFL?
is
Do
it?
guys?
DB's coach, so he's pass game coordinator, so he's experienced with DBs.
Is that a normal thing? Like what the hell?
I
Like how do
mean,
you like what?
I believe.
I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. Look, at any workplace, especially like, corporate, people are very generous with titles. So I could, for example, I could give Jeff a title at Woodward Sports. I can call him an executive producer, an on-air personality, and media manager. And everyone would be like, holy crap, what is it? And I don't even think the Lions know what the hell they're giving out at this point, honestly. I think everyone's just getting really cool titles so they can get a new job.
Yeah, if you go to the Detroit Lions website right now, or you just type in Aubrey Pleasant into Google, he pops up as the Detroit Lions defensive backs coach and passing game coordinator.
that's more common,
some
Kory,
answers.
right? I mean, that makes
I
sense.
don't know. You know what? I don't know how. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how common it is, but for me, I guess it makes sense from the standpoint, like you said, he works with DB, so he's
Yeah.
able to at least be like, all right, point out to the quarterbacks, okay, this is what you're seeing right here in their defense and
Right.
whatnot like that. So I don't think he's out there drawing up X's and O's and saying, slants and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
right.
But
I'm just saying maybe.
Kory, how confident? Go ahead, Easy. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm wondering how much that has to do with the dilemmas on offense.
Yeah.